There are many marvelous creatures in this land, from the towering beast of the plains, to the bizarre kingdom of the insect, to the hidden world of the microscopic. But today's guest is a quite unusual one, with both confounding and fascinating traits. From its eating habits, to social behavior, to its mating ritual. Today, we will be looking at the incredible world of the weeaboo. These creatures' natural habitats lie in the dark dwelling places, secluded rooms, and isolated corners of rural subdivisions, apartment complexes, and the country of Japan. There, they normally live in a symbiotic relationship with the family of the home, to the occasional dismay of the host. And we have had the great fortune to observe one of these parasitic beasts living in an American household. Inside this lovely little home, we begin our descent into the mother's basement. Cats unwillingly and lewdly wearing miniskirts is a sure sign that we are getting close. As we approach the door, we can hear the weeb acquiring substance. Gently but swiftly, we open the door as not to frighten it off. Success! We have found one.
Oh, is that already that time?
The beast is slightly startled, but surrounded by its deities and romantic idols. Courage flows through its veins to face what comes next.
Alright, let's do this!
Hello Internet, what's going on guys? I'm Ricardo.
I'm Ryan.
And we're here to review some of your comments. Thank you so much for commenting guys. This past volume has been actually pretty awesome. And speaking of volumes,
I just got this a couple days ago from my grandparents. I already have them all, but now I have them on Blu-ray.
oh my gosh.
And if you couldn't tell from the beginning of the video, I am in the process of rewatching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood with a friend of mine. And remember, I have a Mustang outfit that I bought. So I decided, why not have us start with that?
Oh, how lovely. Anyways guys, this past volume has actually been really fun. I remember when this volume first aired. It was right after Volume 3, I think they started announcing it, and everyone was just excited because we weren't actually sure if we'd get a Volume 3, considering that
Exactly.
Monty passed away.
The status of RWBY was up in the air. Nobody knew until they finally announced, yes,
And then
Volume 3 was going to happen.
We were so
Volume 4.
Until, of course, it came out, and then a lot of people crapped on it for some reason. I mean, if you watched Volume 4, like I did in my reviews, you'll notice that there are actually a lot of good points, and without it, sure, there were a lot of characters, but without it, we wouldn't get such amazing scenes like This Life Is Mine, and of course, Little Nora and Little Ren.
Exactly. That completely surprised me. I didn't expect them to do
Yes.
that.
I don't think anybody expected them to have to focus on Ren, and more importantly, have us go back to when they were younger. We only got that technically like once, but even then it was just like a quick slideshow flashback with Yang and Blake. It wasn't,
Exactly. It wasn't animated.
It wasn't an actual part of the story, but I'm glad they did do that.
And an integral part, no less.
Yes.
With
Yes.
revealing the origin of Ren's actual semblance.
And like I said, this as well as solidifying the relationship he had with Norans in a way that we really didn't expect. We expected them to more or less be friends from childhood, but not in that kind of way.
Yeah.
It was just amazing, and I'm glad that I watched Volume 4, and I'm glad that I stuck with it, because there were some people that actually dropped out of Volume 4 simply because they just didn't like it.
I was actually...
They thought they turned away from Monty's dream.
I was actually on the fence about it, but I'm like, I'm gonna give it a shot. Mind you, I didn't watch it right away when it came out. It basically, Volume 5 was ready to come out. I'm like, oh crap, I need to get caught up.
I, of course, didn't watch Volume 4 until the final releasing because I hate waiting in between episodes. But yeah, as we'll go on with further volumes, you'll notice that actually is a trend where we always get these shouters and these jumpers, the people who just shout out, oh, this is terrible, and then those people who just leave the volumes for no good reason. Come on. I mean, if you jumped, you wouldn't have gotten Volume 6, which we'll actually get to in this review. But first, let's start with the comments.
Alright, here we go.
Starting with actually the first video that I put out, which was the character short, which some people didn't watch, to be honest. Not just my review, but the actual short itself, which was understandable. I mean, no one really watched the trailers when they first came out, but that's why I kind of think that they changed the name to the character short. But the first comment comes actually from our favorite commenter, or at least one of my favorite commenters. There are many of you. Fear the Cutie. The whole animation change didn't bother me. RWBY has always improved in quality where it was a noticeable change from season to season. I guess I do understand some people's concerns as Lakanna's change was jarring and I immediately felt a loss for the older original style. Well, first of all, thank you for that. I actually had intended Lakanna's pretty much skull to change over each volume, sort of this, again, to signify the fact that RWBY was changing as each volume went. And that, yes, at volume 4 there would be a drastic change, because that's more or less what happened. A lot of people didn't realize that RWBY was actually updating. It was getting better, more smoother. We noticed this mostly with volume 3, where it started to really focus on the outside stuff, the tiny little details.
Yeah, like with the students, like the background students were no longer just silhouettes. They actually were animated.
Silhouettes of already known characters.
Yes.
Literally, you could just look in the background and say,
outside of that one
character.
student from, what was it, volume 1?
Yes.
Where he was like, yeah!
God knows why they haven't brought him up yet. Again, that would have been...
Make him
made that an interesting trend. Just
yes.
a random character that said some random line of approval or whatever. But anyways, yes, it was kind of jarring when we first watched it and saw the animation shift. Only because of the fact, like I said, it was just one shift in style. It wasn't the actual change in the animation. The animation was more or less the same. The only difference was the outline of the characters was no longer as prominent as before, and that's because they kind of toned down the cell shading.
And they were using a different actual
engine,
program.
Yes. Maya is sort of a little bit more hardcore than Poser, and more importantly, their animators knew how to use it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny that some people actually jumped RWBY because of that.
I gave it a shot, and I mean, while I still need to finish volume 6, I just keep forgetting to watch it. Don't question me!
No judgment! Anyways, moving on to the actual volume itself. We start with, of course, one of my favorite commenters, mainly because he keeps me in line. I think your name is Xionix. He has a time code stamp here at 316. Damn it, you missed a chance to make a hand-holding joke. Which was pretty much when in that I said that I was pretty much making a joke about the Bumblebee community and how they were just having Blake and Yang kissing each other. And he was right. I could have made a hand-holding joke where they're holding hands, because apparently that's considered more lewd in Japan. I don't know why. Plus,
don't question it. It's Japan.
Let's not get into questioning them.
Yeah.
You'll just go down the rabbit hole.
And that's something we don't want to do in this video.
Moving on to the next question, again from Xionix. He has another time code stamped at 10:05. Excuse me, Sun, Stark, and Cardinal are all specifically related to a color, and Funky gives off the idea of a multitude. Have you seriously not heard of the tenets of the color's name rule? A character or a team's name should either be a color, sound like a color, or remind you of a color. It was guidelines that Monty gave his fans for creating OCs. Yeah, you addressed this at the end of your vid, but you seem to think that this isn't true or something. Regardless, at least all the official names follow it, even if a few characters don't. True, he's got a point there. But then technically, going by that last criteria, any word can mean a color because it reminds you of a color. My point was not to break it down. My point was to say that you shouldn't be restricted by it in order to create an OC. So many other OCs out there have not been restricted by it, and they've created some pretty interesting ones. But again, I think this was more or less just Monty's trying a way of helping you guys, and then you took it a little too far. But to be honest, I really didn't care. I was again just trying to make a joke, and
all for the sake of comedy.
Yeah, all for the sake of comedy, both at the expense of the show, since again, yeah, they had a whole thing, but more importantly, the expense of you guys. Because yes, there are some people who get a little too
offended.
not offended, but strict with it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, don't be restricted by this. Be expressive. Create something awesome, even yes, if you have to bend the rules a little bit. There are some people out there who have created teams of 5 characters rather than 4, teams of 3 characters. It doesn't matter. Team names can still sound pretty cool. It's all about just being creative and adding to the story.
Yeah.
But anyways, thanks for your comment, because yes, there are some people who got a little
out of hand
with that, going like, why are you creating characters? You're breaking the rules.
We don't need that toxicity here.
Moving on to another one of my favorite commenters, Thomas Gabriel White, who wrote, "The power of friendship is based on the fact that more allies you have, the more likely you are to succeed." True, but it's also a great way to just make a meme.
Exactly.
And yes, we're just going to make fun of it because it is kind of stupid. Let's just look at the most recent one. All the Avengers went against Thanos and he still whooped them asses. So, power of friendship doesn't always work.
Exactly.
It's more of the fact that we're supposed to come together as a team. For instance, in the first volume, where it focused on all the teams coming together as a team. It's not about you having the power of God. It's just about you guys working together. But anyways, it was an interesting comment, and I kind of liked it because, again, it's a meme. Let's all laugh at it.
It's grown so far that it's kind of becoming ingrained in anime anyway.
Yeah.
Look at Fairy Tail. The TV Tropes website is there for a reason.
Yes. Alright, moving on to the next episode. Episode 2, Remembrance. Again, we got my favorite commenter, Fear the Cutie. I'm not crying. My eyes are just becoming waterfalls. They do that all the time. Also, Klein is all the 7 dwarves. Literally, all of them. First of all, yes, I was crying at that episode too because there was a lot to cry about, considering the fact that we really didn't know that Weiss's house was that
broken.
We thought it was just the stereotypical, I'm a father, but I'm too busy with my work. I can't deal with my children right now. Oh, I really do love my children, but I hate to work.
He's just a straight up asshole.
Yeah, literally, the both time they come up, true, yes, they have no really other aspect to them, and we were kind of hoping for that whole family connection. That's why we sort of needed to see Weiss's mom, but hopefully they bring her up in Volume 7. But, yes, it was kind of, like, suddenly shocking, and we felt bad for Weiss because it wasn't her complaining. It was actually true. Her life at home really did suck.
I mean, we kind of got hints of it in Volume 3 with their card being declined.
Yeah, but once again, I brought up this comment mainly because of the fact that I actually didn't know that he was based off the 7 Dwarves. I knew that, yes, Weiss was based off Snow White, but
I kind of figured that out with him constantly changing eye colors.
Yeah. But anyways, I continue on with this comment with a little joke that I thought that Klein was actually just a representative of the underwear company. I'm going to leave that visual in your mind right now for just a second as we move on. I know some of you out there is just going to they're going to take that meme and they're just going to make a picture of it. It's going to be awesome. But moving on.
I expect you to get onto this. Come on, Internet, you can do it.
You guys can do it. You guys can do it. Again, same episode. We got Thomas Gabriel White. Jacques Schnee is based on Jack Frost. Nicholas Schnee, which so happens, for those who don't know, is, I believe, their great-grandfather?
Grandfather, yes, grandfather.
Weiss's grandfather.
The founder of the Schnee Dust Company.
Yes. Nicholas Schnee is based on Santa Claus. In the movie Santa Claus 2, Jack Frost tricked Scott Calvin into giving up being Santa Claus and took the job for himself. Jacques Schnee tricked Nicholas Schnee into giving up the Schnee Dust Company to him. We got a bit of that in, I think, episode 7, Punished, which is where, yes, Weiss says you married into the name rather than
also
actually
in the Remnant about the Schnee Dust Company too.
But again, just similar like the trailers, might not have watched that.
Yeah, true.
Especially since some of them are actually not on YouTube because Rooster Teeth hates us.
Why do you do this to us, Rooster Teeth? Why?
Again, I didn't actually know that. I didn't know that he was based on that. And you might want to edit this back because John Tom is going to be very upset. It's Santa Claus 3, not 2. Santa Claus 3. Santa Claus 2 is where he gets a wife.
Oh, yep, you're right about that.
Interestingly enough, I actually like Santa Claus 3. Moving on, episode 3, we got I'm Felled. Another good review, but beware the bees.
Not the bees!
Not the bees! But anyways, thank you for the comment, thank you for the encouragement, and thank you for the joke. Again, we're not being mean to any of you guys when we read these comments. We're just going through them, trying to be a little personal in our response, and of course, have a few laughs.
And spread some memes.
Yes. But anyways, yeah, that was just a fun little comment, because I did touch on that in that episode. Speaking of which, Thomas Gabriel Wright, same episode. You are mostly right. Blake has one sword, but Sun is referring to both the sword and the cleaver, which technically isn't a sword, but Sun doesn't even know how to wear a tie properly.
This is true.
That is very true, but then again, Sun doesn't like those neck traps. But anyways, first of all, yes, that was mostly just a joke. I know that it's technically not a sword, but yet also technically a sword.
It's a sharpened,
because
it's a sharpened
she does
sheath.
use it as a weapon. So
yeah,
it's,
and it does have a handle.
Yeah, so some people didn't get that because, again, this is one of the reasons why I prefer doing it a little later than reviewing right after it's been released.
Which is what most people do.
Yeah, it's which most people do. They miss some of these certain things and they're not able to go back to it because you guys immediately forgot about it. But like I said, when you first started to watch this back on YouTube, when we actually could read some of the comments, thank you, Rooster Teeth, you took that away from us. But there were people making that kind of joke. They were going, what is she talking about? She only has one sword. And I was just going, the other thing, I mean, I know it's not technically a sword, but he's not going to be very specific. We're being attacked by a dragon right now, okay?
Yeah.
We got other priorities. But yeah, thank you for the comment. Moving on to the episode 4, the one that just sort of ruined Yang's, just ruined her growth. But Xionix once again puts another timestamp, 10/21. God, is that the nitpick to end all nitpicks? Yes, I picked on the whole them pouring water, but it was because of the fact that I know why they did it. It wasn't because just making the character do something. It was, look at our animation, isn't it wonderful? They did this very thing in episode 1 where you see Oscar when he's pouring the water and it overflows, and you're like, look at the animation, it's realistic. And I'm just making fun of it because, again, a lot of people were like, the animation is terrible. And of course, some of us who really don't care about that kind of stuff, we're more for the character and story, we're just sitting there going, okay, yeah, it's maybe not that great, but I highly doubt you can do better.
Especially considering how talented Monty was.
Yes.
In the first place.
Remember, first trailer. One guy!
Well, but even before
all
that,
of it, pretty much.
He gained the attention of Rooster Teeth was Haloid. All by himself.
Which, incidentally, I'll just say right now, I found this out when I was just looking for some random videos for a review. There is actually a remake of Haloid. Somebody, a fan, actually remade the Haloid in updated graphics, and I have to say, go look for it if you haven't seen it because it is pretty good. Because it, as far as I can tell, for the most part, it keeps shot for shot of everything. It's just a graphical upgrade.
Yeah,
amazing. Thank you so much to the community out there that you guys are honoring a man who all he wanted to do was just share amazing creations with us.
Exactly.
But Xionix has this really long comment here that I'm not going to say right now, so I'm just going to put it on screen right now. You can read it yourself. But anyways, he basically says that for instance, he's just glad about the episode. But first, he gave me a little correction here, saying that the 2 faunus leaders that went to meet with Gira and his family, they're actually foxes, not dogs, which I was, of course, making a joke that a lot of people confuse foxes with dogs, thinking that, oh, they must be dogs, which...
They are in the canine family,
but not really.
They're not directly related to dogs.
Yeah. But I was just making a kind of joke right there because, again, people were making that kind of comments in the section below, and it was just funny to laugh at. But, for those who might not know, those 2, they are named after the foxes, the family of foxes that they are from.
Yes.
So, another interesting little tidbit. Anyways, he continues on just saying that a lot of people were upset about Blake having rich parents. And to be honest, I actually kind of like that because it went back to Volume 1.
Exactly. I was just going to mention that.
Few moments which it actually recalls back to past information and made you go, oh my gosh, that scene makes a whole different purpose now.
Yeah.
Originally, we just thought that, oh, Blake doesn't like Weiss because, she's rich. No, we're like, oh no, they literally lived very similar lives. Both were rich, both were of high power, both had leaders that more or less were of questionable intent, but one family actually loved their child very much, and she ran, and the other one couldn't run, despite how much of a horrible parent her father was.
But also, it does call back to the scene in Volume 1 where Blake says that she was basically born into the White Fang. That would make sense if her parents were the leaders of the White Fang.
It was almost a literal statement there. So,
but we didn't know that until this episode.
So again, yeah, I'm confused too why people didn't really like that part. He continues on saying just a little defense about Miles and Carrie, saying that they did work on Red vs. Blue and the writing, but let's be frank, Red vs. Blue is not story-based. It's based on characters and comedy, which is one of the reasons why you can go and rewatch the episodes right now, even though they're literally older than YouTube, and they're still funny as hell.
Exactly.
The story doesn't make a lick of sense, and it's never meant to make a lick of sense.
Well, they try to make sense of it,
towards
but
the very end, but
yeah,
they sort of joked about that, to be honest. And we didn't care. That's why I was saying it was sort of out of Miles and Carrie's field when they were trying to focus on the story here. Glad that they are doing their best. To a point. We'll get to that later. Continue on with Thomas Gabriel White. Again, writes, annoying is an opinion. I think Josh Grell, or Gil, he doesn't know, we don't know how to pronounce his name, portrayed the character very well. He's talking about, of course, Tyrion. If anybody who doesn't know Josh Grell or Greel, I'm not sure, but he's a voice actor and he's done a lot of anime characters, but this was one of the first, as far as I can tell, this was one of the first, or at the very least, the first psychopathic character that he's ever portrayed. And that's why I was saying that it seemed that it'd be a little out of his field, because when it comes to these kind of characters, you would have to have a particular presence. It's one of the reasons why Vic Mignogna was such a great cast for Crow, because he was able to portray that presence. So replacing him as a voice actor is going to be very difficult, because it's not just simply the voice, but it's also how he's able to represent the character.
In the case of Mercury.
Yeah.
Mercury had a different voice actor than most people recognize. Most people know him as Uriel.
Close to the character. He was able to keep somewhat close to the character during the turn, so most people don't even notice the change.
Yeah. But yeah, he's actually got two voice actors.
This just happens, people. Sadly, when it came to Tyrion, I just felt he wasn't represented as good. But as some people do say, he gets better. Granted, we hope that things go well with Vic, because the way that things are going right now is not good for anybody.
There's so much hate being spewed out of
for no good
both sides.
For no good reason.
Yeah.
We want more or less what Vic has been stating. Just things to go back to being nice. Back to him playing his Crow. Back to us respecting each other. Especially, and more importantly, back to not lying. Anyways, Fear the Cutie once more writes a comment. Tyrion v. Crow has to be one of my favorite fights. The rule of cool need not apply because Crow stole it all. Yes, exactly. I have to completely agree here.
Same here, yeah.
That fight was totally worth it. I remember a lot of people complaining that they didn't start off immediately with the fight. Instead, they started off with other things. But I'm glad they waited, because it built up the initiation just right.
He kinda did start with a fight, but it wasn't a real fight.
It was a training sort of fight.
Yeah.
But anyways, I am glad that they did do a good job here, because let's face it, that was one of the hinging moments. A lot of people were saying, okay, there's no fights anymore. We went from a season that had a ton of fights to a season that has barely any. So what's going on? And the first fight we get is not really that great, and that's not even including the character short. Are we going to get a great fight? Yay, we got a great fight!
And it's not the only one!
No, we did get some better ones later on. They were mild by a few provinces, but we'll get to that in a second. Continuing on with the same episode, Thomas Gabriel writes, most people don't need to know someone to feel empathy for them. Now he's talking about me complaining to the fact that we don't know much about Asker, so we can't really feel for the problems that he's going through. Which, to be honest, is understandable. I mean, for the fact that they were trying to introduce a new character and had so many other characters to deal with at the time, that's why a lot of people were saying that this volume should have been split into two volumes, where they focus on one character and then they focus on the others. And then in between that, they continued the journey that Ruby and her team were going on. as for the most part, yes, we can. It's very similar to like respect, for instance. Let me give you an analogy. When it comes to respect, we always give people the human respect when we first meet them. The basic respect that you are another human. And then we go on from there on how much respect they deserve. Whether we deserve absolutely none or all the respect because they're a great person. Whatever it may be. Same thing goes right here. We do have some basic empathy, but we don't have the empathy of knowing another character. For instance, the rest of the characters and all the problems they're going through, we pretty much have a lot of empathy for them because we've known them for so long and we've built them. Even Ren and Nora, who barely got any screen time in the first 3 volumes, we still felt for them a lot in the beginning because they had that presence and they had that time to build. Now, Oscar didn't, so interesting enough, a lot of those problems became better in later volumes. Moving on. Sonics! Once again, another long comment. Once again, I'm going to just put it on the screen. You guys can go through
It's way too long for us to actually...
First of all, he just gives it a little bit of an apology for the long comment. This is more or less where he is asking me if I'm hating on the Bumblebee, or is it Bumblebee? I don't know. For some reason, it's recently changed. I don't understand why. If somebody can write in the comments why that might be a change, that'd be great. But anyways, he's questioning why I'm hating so much on the Bumblebee, because I did get a little snippy with it, to say the least. And again, just going back to when it was first aired, a lot of people were complaining. It was like a small little feud in the comments where half the people were complaining that you had these people that were going, ship confirmed, the Bumblebee needs to be confirmed, stop doing it. It was just sort of like, okay, would you idiots just shut up and watch the show? Let the writers do whatever they're going to do. I mean, if you wanted to give them points on how they need to make the story better, that's fine, but when it comes to the characters, I think they more or less have them down pat. But anyways, yes, I did get a little snippy with it, but I'm going to go over that in an actual video later on, hopefully in the month. I don't want it to be too long, but I do want to go over it more or less. Anyways, the last thing is that he does mention that the whole 2 songs, like Morning Follows Night, it's technically not a shipping song, whereas Bumblebee song is technically a shipping song.
But there was actually the one song from the previous volume.
Let's also not forget the fact that they've clearly stated that the songs are made separately from the show, and there's just an inevitability because of that, because they can't really work so closely. So for the most part, they don't really have anything to do directly with the characters. There are some songs that are dealing with certain instances and certain events or
like
situations, but
Red Like Roses Part 2. That song did actually have an impact on the story because that song is the whole reason that Summer was killed off.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, Jeff Williams created Summer and then killed him off in the same song. Mm-hmm. And Monty liked it.
Or at the very least, because there was a grave there that was already saying Summer Rose, but at the very least, it helped influence why Summer died and how that was affecting Ruby. Which is interesting because if you listen to the Red Like Roses Part 2, it doesn't sound like Ruby at all. It actually sounds like Yang, which again means that they make the song separately so they don't tie in really that much to the show. But it's an interesting aspect to think that, again, because Ruby and Yang were a little closer than sisters, they're almost like mother and daughter. Mainly because of the fact that good old Ty, decided to have a poop out and ditch his kids.
I still want to see Ty fight, damn it!
Yeah, hopefully we get that soon. I mean, they kind of teased it back in Volume 5, if you think about it, that he may get back into the fight. It was the end credit scene. Anyways, before we go on, first, let me ask you, Ryan, what do you think about the Bumblebee?
I don't really have any opinion either way. I feel that people should let the story happen the way that the writers want it to, and not to try and influence them, because that's just going to ruin the story.
It's going to end poorly, I agree. Again, if you guys go back, for instance, I think it was in Volume 2 and Volume 3, and I spoke that I really didn't care which way it took, so long as they developed the relationship properly.
Exactly.
And I'll get to this point later on, but it's mainly, I'm getting a little frustrated right now because people are still pushing and not simply saying, oh, if you think about it in this particular sense, how shipping is supposed to be, where they just pair two characters and see how it would actually work out, or more importantly, like an alternate universe, how these two may have come together. They're actually trying to push for the Bumblebee, and the reason I don't like that is we're 6 volumes in. They haven't really developed in any way romantically Blake and Yang's relationship. In a sense of almost sisterhood, as Monty first of all stated, that this was literally a team of sisters.
Exactly.
Quite literally when it came to Ruby and Yang, but basically a team of sisters, which is mostly emphasized actually in Volume 1, especially when you get the Ruby and Weiss situation. It literally, you would think that they are sisters considering how much they bigger.
Exactly.
But the fact that they haven't built it romantically, we're 6 volumes in, it would be very, very, very difficult to try and build it now, especially since they already built a somewhat romantic relationship between Blake and Sun. So
we're not saying that that's going to happen,
okay?
But
they could end up not being with either of each other, okay? That could still be on the table. A lot of people forget that third option. But either way, we need to just let the writers do what they can. Encourage them to do what is right for the show and the characters, and hold them accountable for when they do something wrong. Don't try to make excuses, just hold them accountable.
But don't push them.
Don't be extremely negative towards it. That doesn't help anybody. But don't push them. We want this to be the best it can be.
Yeah, don't make this fandom toxic.
I wouldn't use the exact words, but yes. We're supposed to be a community. Why are we fighting each other?
Exactly.
The stupidest thing! It's a ship. It's a theoretical concept. It has no bearing on the actual show. Again, that's why I try to get a little snippy about it. Because you do have people, and Exion, you may be for the Ruby ship, or this ship here, good for you, but don't go all for it. Be for the show, okay? At the end of the day, the show's still going to be here, and like I said in my end of the review, years down the line, hopefully it'll be completed. Somebody's going to pick it up. They're not going to care about the ships. They're not going to care about any history about it. They're just going to watch the show. So, sorry to get a little long with that, but it was a long comment. And again, I'll go further in detail later on. Moving on, where we got a new commenter.
I think that says Old Taku DD.
I actually like that name. Old Taku DD. Who writes, glad to have a Ruby reviewer that is not militant one way or the other. I try not to be. As I say, what I like and don't like about any show doesn't really matter. What you like and don't like about any show doesn't really matter when it comes to being a good show. Even if it's a bad show, you can still like it.
That's what guilty pleasures are for.
Yeah. All I say is that acknowledge the things that are bad. Why? Because it helps with the things that are good. For instance, I actually like the movie Godzilla 1998. The one that they literally bought the rights to and renamed Zilla.
Just so they could kill it.
Yes.
That was still glorious.
I still like that movie. In fact, I like it more than Godzilla 2014. Do I think it's stupid? Yes. Do I think it's completely ridiculous in every way? Does it have all the problems that they say? Absolutely. But I still like it. Does that make it a good movie? No, it's still a bad movie. But it doesn't matter. I like it. Yeah. Is certain parts of RWBY considered bad? Yes. Does that mean that you can't like them anymore? No. If you like Tyrion, great for you. If you like certain things about RWBY, great for you. Yeah. Enjoy it. Just acknowledge when they are bad, and that's all that's going to worse. Because, for instance, if you are having problems acknowledging that it is bad, it may be because you may not actually like it as much as you think. So, again, just enjoy the show, people. It's what it was originally created for us. To enjoy. But moving on to the good old episode that had us in tears. Moving on to episode 10. Ixion once again writes, I mean, who would honestly give a shiznad that his full name is Lai Ren, considering that he said literally in the second time we were ever hear his name mentioned. Sometimes people are just referred to by their last names. You've watched RWBY. You know that Leonard and so many others, I'm not going to name right now. I fail to see any problem unless you desperately want to make one, considering the symbolism is still there, as you said, and this affects nothing else. As I said, in the actual review, true, this is a very small potato when you think about it. Lai, Ren, Lai, who really gives a crap?
It's like Rock Lee from Naruto.
Yeah. Who gives a crap? The reason I was bringing it up is to make a point. The fact that small problems can lead to bigger issues. And yes, it is canon now. Unless let's not bring it off the table, it's completely possible. Unless they're willing to go back and re-edit that so that she calls him Ren, well, it's canon. So any further problems that they make are also canon. This comes most importantly down in Volume 6 and Volume 5. The two volumes that people sort of had problems with, mainly towards the end. They started off pretty good and then they ended pretty poorly. He doesn't know yet because he hasn't watched it that far.
Yeah,
Even if
I'm working on it.
Even if I have to duct tape you to the damn chair, I will do that.
I'm working on it.
I will go, what is that movie from that guy where he just straps you to the chair, opens your eyes.
Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, I will go all Clockwork Orange on your ass. You will watch that shit. But anyways, like I said, yeah, it was just a small little nitpick, to be honest. No one really cares, but it's still canon. That's the issue that I was having. For the most part, we're not going to care. We're still going to call him Ren. We're still going to consider his first name to be Ren, but it's still canon that his first name is Lai. That's the only problem, like I said, is to remember that small problems like this will carry on. There's no real changing about it. Until, of course, eventually we bring forth whoever is holding back copyright and we shoot him in the head, and then everyone can then have rights to remake whatever they want. Granted, it won't always be good. Let's face it, again, years down the line, somebody may come back and try to remake RWBY, which may be awesome, may be terrible. We'll see. Hopefully they don't try to do a live-action remake.
I'm just gonna say that.
I'm sorry, I just watched the Sonic trailer and I'm still
Yeah.
in shock.
What?
Live action doesn't always mean good. Disney have pretty much proved that to us. It is how you do the live action. Moving on! And once again, Exion writes a comment with another timestamp code. Thank you, man. You are actually, I'm not joking. I love you listening to your comments. At 1546, speaking of, you go on to say that you try to take as balanced as approach as possible. Why is the word cynical in your name then? You certainly don't seem very cynical at all. If anything, I'd call you cautious, I suppose, but not cynical. Cynicism is a terrible aspect for a critic to have, and one that a lot of critics end up being plagued by, believing that they need to be more or less cynical. That's just the point. First of all, cautious critic
Doesn't roll off the tongue.
No. Cynical critic does. More importantly, I'm cynical about what? Everything! The good, the bad, it doesn't matter. Somebody comes up to me and say, hey man, you gotta watch this movie, it's great! I'm gonna go, bull. There is something wrong, I'm gonna find it. Somebody's gonna say, don't go watching this show, man, it's terrible. You don't even waste your time. I'm gonna say, garbage, I'm gonna watch it. There's something good in there, I will find it, and I will show you that there is good. That's why I'm cynical. Because I don't listen to you. It's one of the reasons why I say if you want an opinion on a movie or show, you have to watch it yourself. You can't just take somebody else saying, yeah, I heard it was terrible, so I'm not going to watch it. What? Unless you're paying money for it, yeah, don't spend your money. But if you can find a way to watch it for free, either through a service that you're already paying for, or going to your local library, then watch it. Spend a few hours, sure, yeah, you won't get that time back, but at least you'll have a proper opinion on it, and hey, you might find out that you actually do like it. So just watch it. That's why I'm cynical. Is because I don't really trust anybody else's opinion. And plus, I don't have to be completely cynical. Yes, a lot of people will think that cynical means that they're, I don't trust anything, everything's terrible. No, that is what you would consider negative. And yes, a lot of critics out there get very negative with RWBY. Because, well, firstly, it's what draws a lot of views. A lot of people want to see more negativity than positivity, which is kind of funny because, put a little side note here, if anybody know about CinemaSins, they actually have a doppelganger known as CinemaWins that do the exact opposite. They actually win movies. Some of them are good movies, some of them are bad movies, but at the end of the day, they are more towards positivism. And his channel has blown up in the past, I think, 2 years that he's actually been doing this. So I'm going to hopefully put a little link in the description. Go visit him or just type in CinemaWins. It's a really good channel. But again, yeah, that's why I'm cynical. Because I'm going to point out the good. I'm going to point out the bad. The rest is up to you. But not all Exion's comments are of pointing out things that I've done wrong. One of them is another timestamp code at 10:44 in which he just says, I twitch. Anybody who doesn't know what he's talking about, it's when the song starts playing as Ruby starts writing her letter. Which, yes, I twitch. It's a very sad moment. Let's be frank, most of us got pretty close, at the very least, pretty close to teary-eyed. Otherwise, you're not human. But yes, at that moment, I have to say, that's one of the reasons why I say that there she became really a main character. She was no longer just experiencing things happening to herself. She was taking the leap to act on the world. It's not the only tearing moment that we'll be getting from Ruby in certain volumes, so be ready for that. Alright, before we continue on with the last two comments, what did you think about that scene with Ruby?
I have to agree with you on that. Yeah, even watching it after the first viewing, I still start to get a little teary-eyed.
I have to say,
it hits
Ruby as a character, and more importantly, Lindsay Jones as a voice actor has come a long way. So that's why I get a little almost. I start breaking out into uncontrollable laughter whenever anybody brings up the fact that Ruby is not a good character. She's just not a normal protagonist. She's a very good character. She's the character who everything happens around her, and it isn't until now that she starts taking control. Literally in Volume 6 is when she actually spells it out for you guys. But yeah, that was a very sad moment, which is, again, weird that people were saying Volume 4 was not a good volume. You get moments like that just bring you the tears.
Well, I think it was more the fact of like the amount of like World of Remnant videos where they weren't building in the actual story itself. They were using the World of Remnants to build the world around it.
It's one of the reasons why I say I didn't review the World of Remnants despite them coming before Volume 4, is because they felt not like episodes that were breaking into the world. Like, they were their own standalone episodes, almost like the character shorts in the trailers. Yeah. They were just saying, oh shoot, we forgot about this, let's throw that out. It would have been interesting if they had made it instead of, just last time on RWBY. It would have been interesting if they had made it like an actual episode. Almost like one of those parodies where they, instead of top 10 dogs that exist in the world, it's top 10 dragons that exist in our world. It would have been interesting if it had some sort of relevance back into the story, like a
or if
character
it was,
short.
Even if it was just an episode of, especially in like Volume 4, with the where if they had the World of Remnants, where it's the team sitting around Crow and you actually see him telling the story.
One of the things that I thought it was missed opportunities, that they should have done this back at least in Volume 2. Because it would have been a great, just a little mini episode of the kids in class learning about this. Because then we would have gotten their responses, we would have gotten them growing.
But then we wouldn't have had Salem talking, doing the narration.
Or Crow, because Crow wasn't introduced in Volume 2, and Salem didn't make an appearance until the end of Volume 3. So
Crow didn't take over until Volume 4.
Yeah. So having either of them for that early, would have been a little confusing. But again, it just happens. There are much more comments, and I wish I could have got to them, but I don't want to make this too long.
Yeah.
But we're going to switch over quickly to my first impressions of RWBY's Volume 6. And actually, these two comments that I brought up specifically because the first one brings out an interesting problem. The other one more or less answers it. First one, coming from, and of course he won't really understand much about this because he hasn't watched the damn show yet.
I've watched part of it! I made it up to like episode 4.
Let's be all frank. We sometimes get distracted. There are just so many shows out there to watch. But once again, Ixion comes up and he says, "Boy, are you glad that you aren't involved in the community during the airing?" I try to stay out of anything RWBY during the airing because I don't like spoilers. Towards the end, a collection of assholes were getting annoyingly loud about Adam, as if he wasn't a mass-murdering racist. Like he wasn't a great villain or anything, but so many people seem to build up this idea in their heads about brooding, misunderstanding Batman who just wants to save his people. He wasn't that. He was never going to be that. He was a bad person.
He did start out.
Liars!
I will say he did start out...
First of all, yes, he did start out for his people. This is one of the reasons he was doing it. It's not
Which
until...
is why we got the character.
It's literally
short.
not until Volume 5, and of course, ending of Volume 5, and of course Volume 6, that Rooster Teeth screwed it up, because they realized, oh shoot, we have two different villains here, and we can't really focus on them both. We have, of course, Salem in her group, and then we have the White Fang. You know how you fix that? Simple! Blake just told you in Volume 4, I'm going to take back the White Fang. Hold off on Salem and her group, and finish your damn B plot. That was the problem. A lot of people were thinking that because they had set him up as that. They didn't set him up as, he's a sympathetic character, he's just misunderstood. No, they set him up, for instance, I don't know if anybody here has watched the show Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a pretty decent show, especially if you like the movies. In it, there's a character called Ward. And at the very end of the first season and in the entirety of the second season, he more or less goes from a good character to a bad character. But we don't hate him. In fact, not even in the season 3, where he is the baddest of the bad, we still don't hate him. We can't agree with anything he does. And that's what we wanted from Adam, is a character that we don't hate. We understand why he's fighting for his people. We understand why he's doing the things he does, but we cannot agree with anything he does. Yeah. Which is what Blake more or less was about. Is that she understood why he was fighting for him. It's one of the reasons why she couldn't really confront him. But she just couldn't do what he was doing anymore. That was the problem, is they set him up like that and then they just utterly drop him on his head.
Yeah.
Granted, anime has a tendency to bring back characters, so we'll see what happens. Anyways, next question. Koira! Thank you so much. They undermine so much to appease a select few. The character development of the characters, the entire removal of a few others, and even the type of threat going full on Naruto for no reason. Very true. They ruined a lot at close to the end simply to appease. It's one of the reasons why I say I don't really like the Bumblebee ears, because they're not really for the show and for the relationship, they're for the ship itself. So they don't really care if it's done well, so long as it's done. And while we already experienced that, it's called Legend of Korra.
Yeah.
It's considered a very bad show. Not because it's got poor animation or poor actors or anything, it's because it's got very poor writing and very poor characters. Especially towards the end, where they literally pair two characters up for no reason but to get those sweet, sweet brownie points. Continues on going, middle of the season was great, but the end of the season. I typically rewatch the series once and then the season twice over, and this time just no, it left me feeling like I could entirely predict the character developments and fights for next season. And in that moment, I was bored. Very true. Sadly, he'll get to this for a second, so sorry about the spoilers, man, but...
I already kind of figured that out.
Yeah.
Because I saw the freaking...
It was very stereotypical, sadly. We could see it coming. That's the problem. For instance, in Volume 3, we couldn't see almost any of that coming. Or when we did, we were hoping that it wouldn't come because we knew that we weren't going to like it. And no, it's coming. Oh, no. But yeah, they got kind of lazy, to be honest. And that's actually because another show sort of influenced that, and I'll be talking about that actually. You'll notice when I talk about that. Go watch my first impressions of that. He finishes with, my favorite was either with the Pura statue or the fairy tale episode. But those two didn't feel like appeasement to an outside demand, but like they belonged and were directly a part of the characters themselves. He's very much right. The fairy tale episode, as I point out in my first impressions, is very weird, because on one hand it was like, oh my gosh, this is just a bunch of cliches, and on the other hand it's like, holy cow, this is exactly what RWBY is. It's literally a fairy tale. Granted, yes, some of it doesn't really make sense, and there's others that's like, what? But it don't matter. That's what pretty much all fairy tales are, and it's more importantly how they presented it. It was amazing. And yes, the moment in which they talk about the statue of Pura, it's very heartbreaking, and I'm glad that they slowed it down on that. It wasn't a quick, brief by, and I'm glad they didn't make it like where he just crumbles to tears. But for the rest of it, yeah, when it's weird. Volume 6 people were claiming to be much, much better than Volume 5, but to be honest, it's very similar to Volume 5. Starts out pretty good, but ends kind of bad. It just ended kind of bad in a different way. Where in Volume 5, it ended kind of bad because they really didn't know what to do with the character Adam. And I'll actually get to that. There is a solution that they could have done that would have made him, not us feel like we're rooting for him like we did with Roman, but made us go, okay, I don't know what to do. I can't blame him for what he's doing because what he's doing is for his people, but I can't get on board because what he's doing is wrong. I'm conflicted, and that's what we needed. We needed confliction. We didn't get that. Only to appease a certain group that, to be honest, going back and watching it wasn't very good at appeasing us because we saw it coming. We knew what was going to happen. We can pretty much tell you before we even watched the episode. But again, RWBY's not over. They can do so much better. We just have to encourage them.
Yeah. Remember, RWBY, from the get-go, Monty had planned for 16 volumes. We're only on to volume 7.
Let's hope that they have the patience to do that.
And
more importantly, the morality to do that, because I've been hearing rumors that they want to continue going on beyond 16, even if the story is not really, there.
Yeah.
RWBY needs a definitive ending. I'll just say that. Yeah. Yes, we can have other stories, like for instance, I don't know if it's out yet, but the whole little side quest with Team Coffee.
I was just going to mention, I want Team Coffee to come back into RWBY.
I want Team Coffee as a
Volume 7.
I want it as like a sideshow. Literally like we're getting with the World of Remnants and the character shows. Just give us a little side thing. You got the money now! Come on, RWBY's an international show. Start a GoFundMe. We will pay for that GoFundMe. We did it with your damn movies. We'll do it with this. We want our Team Coffee.
Let them be brought back into Volume 7. Please. We need this. If not 7, at least 8. Come on!
Yeah. I mean...
Don't deny us Coffee!
We're going to Atlas, and likely we'll be going to Vacuole after. I'm pretty sure that hopefully bring back in Volume... either in Atlas in Volume 7, or in Vacuole in Volume 8.
Well, considering that, at least from their book that they're supposed to have, they're in Vacuole.
Okay, so hopefully they're back.
At least that's what I've read.
Hopefully they build it up in Volume 8. That would be actually pretty fun. Yeah. But either way, thank you so much for writing your comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much, and more importantly, for sticking with RWBY. Because like I said, there's a lot of jumpers that just jump for no good reason, and they thought it was terrible because of certain parts were terrible. That was it. And this will get more prominent in Volume 5, actually. But till next time, you guys take care. I'm Ricardo.
I'm Ryan.
And this has been our comment review of Volume 4. See you later.
Bye.
For it.